When we try to organize our lives, we usually, well, we start small, right?
Right, yeah, like buying those little bins for the closet.
Exactly. Or, maybe we color code our calendar. We just crave categories. We really like knowing exactly where things belong.
Because it gives us this sense of control over the unpredictable chaos of reality. I mean, it's a totally natural coping mechanism.
Yeah.
If we can put a name on something, and stick it in a labeled box, it sort of loses its power to intimidate us.
But imagine taking that same obsessive need to declutter and organize and applying it to the entire supernatural universe.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like every god, every wandering ghost, every bizarre paranormal event, all just corralled into a single, highly specific filing system.
That is a massive undertaking.
It really is. And today we're doing a deep dive into an incredibly complex, kind of a mind-building text translated into English. It's written by an author named Hundon Celestial.
Right, and it has a very specific title, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's titled Response to Dao Wai 1. Gods, Ghosts, Demons, and Possession. And, our mission today for you listening is simply to map out this wild cosmology. We are unpacking the architecture of this author's world building.
Because it really is an absolute masterclass in synthesizing global mythologies, isn't it?
Exactly.
And the scale of that synthesis is just staggering. I mean, this isn't just some slight tweak to existing beliefs. That the author builds an entirely new cosmological engine from the ground up.
Trying to reconcile ancient spiritual fears with, surprisingly, modern psychological realities.
Right.
We're going to uncover why this framework demands, basically, a massive demotion for the gods of human history.
Which is fascinating.
And we'll get into how a coffin floating in the ocean for 28 years proves this weirdly specific point about ghosts. Plus, why the ultimate cure for demonic possession might just be booking a session with a therapist.
I love that part. The journey starts at the very top of the hierarchy, up in the heavens, before it descends into the sort of dark margins of our reality.
Right. And ultimately ends up right inside the human psyche. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
The text starts with this massive, sweeping declaration. There's only one true greatest creator.
Which sets the stage for everything else.
It really does. Because of this absolute rule, every other god worshipped across human history has to be reclassified.
Yeah, they all get knocked down a peg.
Exactly. The author takes figures like Zeus from Greek mythology, Brahma from India, Mazu, the Chinese sea goddess, even local door gods, strips them all of their divine status.
Just completely revokes it.
The text states they must now be venerated simply as angels. It's basically, it's like a corporate restructuring of the heavens.
That corporate analogy actually hits the nail on the head, because the author is taking all these diverse regional managers from different branches of human spirituality, right? And just consolidating them under one CEO.
Which makes sense from an organizational standpoint.
Totally. But what's fascinating here is that the underlying motivation for this theological restructuring isn't about disrespecting those deities.
Right, it's not malicious.
Not at all. In this cosmology, ordinary people finding spiritual comfort in these figures is actually a good thing.
So what's the problem then?
The author's issue is with the earthly institutions built around them. The temples, the bureaucracy.
Ah, right. The endless temples and the constant fundraising. The author draws a very hard line there from what I read.
Yeah, because in this worldview, true enlightened beings would never want to exhaust ordinary people. The author views the rampant construction of temples and this non-stop solicitation of donations in rural areas as predatory.
Wow, so they see it as basically exploiting the vulnerable under the guise of piety.
Exactly. The text insists that when religious devotion goes to extremes, it reverses into something harmful.
That makes total sense. It's really a socioeconomic critique disguised as a theological one,
Absolutely.
Instead of pouring limited resources into more temples, this author argues that remote communities need education. They need to be guided toward and this is a, quote, scientific outlook on development.
Right. So the demotion of the global pantheons is really about freeing up human energy and capital down here on Earth.
It's an incredibly pragmatic pivot.
Yeah.
The heavens are streamlined so humanity can focus on tangible progress.
But that creates a massive question, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. If the heavens are restructured and the gods are demoted, what happens to regular human souls when they die?
Because in most religions, you eventually go to the gods, right?
Right. But here, the afterlife gets a lot more complicated. And this brings us to a definition of ghosts that completely subverts the standard Hollywood monster trope.
Yeah, in this framework, ghosts aren't inherently evil or terrifying. They're defined simply as pitiable souls.
Just sad, wandering souls.
Exactly. When a person dies, their spirit shouldn't normally become a ghost. That's an anomaly.
So how does it happen?
Well, if something goes wrong, they get trapped in a marginal space. It's described as an exact intersection between physical matter and negative space. They just linger right on the boundary of our reality.
And you don't just accidentally wander into this margin, right? The author outlines 3 very specific scenarios that turn a human soul into a ghost.
Right, it's a very strict criteria.
First, you have people who practice spiritual cultivation blindly. They rush for enlightenment without proper guidance.
And when their weakened physical body dies, their spirit is just left wandering aimlessly.
Exactly. Then the second scenario involves sudden death or extreme stubbornness.
Like someone dying in the prime of life.
Yeah, full of vigor, but they just refuse to accept what happened. Because they're still fiercely attached to the material world, their spirit body flat out refuses to move on.
So they just crash against the boundary between worlds, basically stuck.
I get the stubbornness thing. I mean, that makes sense. But the third category is the one that really tripped me up.
The obsessive experts.
Yes. You can become a ghost if you are an obsessive expert. Someone whose research into a niche subject reaches such a fever pitch that they actually glimpse the supramaterial world.
But then they get hopelessly confused between what's material and what isn't.
Right. And to illustrate what breaks these experts' minds, the author pulls in these wild historical anomalies.
Because the text highlights phenomena that our current scientific models just struggle to explain. They use them as the catalyst for this existential confusion.
Yeah, things like the alleged telepathic connection between distant twins or Shanti Devi.
Oh, Shanti Devi, right.
Yeah, a real girl born in India in 1926 who had these vivid, heavily investigated memories of a past life.
Which would definitely break a strict materialist's brain.
Totally. And then my absolute favorite example they use, the story of Charles Coughlin.
Oh, this one is wild.
He really is. So he was a famous 19th century actor. He died in 1899 and was buried in a lead-lined coffin in Galveston, Texas. But then a massive hurricane washed his coffin out to sea. And the story goes that it drifted for 28 years.
Wait, 28 years just floating?
Yes, floating for thousands of kilometers until it washed up right near his original homeland of Prince Edward Island in Canada.
That is unbelievable. So when an obsessive intellectual encounters impossible events like that floating coffin, their strict framework completely shatters.
Exactly.
And according to the author, if that expert's physical body dies while they're trapped in that state of profound bewilderment, their soul gets snagged in the margin.
But hang on, though. I was really struggling with this part of the reading. You're telling me that being too curious or, I don't know, reading too many weird Wikipedia articles is what traps you between dimensions.
I mean, it sounds a bit harsh, right?
It feels like a bizarrely specific trap for intellectuals.
Yeah.
Why do these exact things make someone a ghost?
Well, look at the common denominator in all 3 categories. It isn't just about curiosity, it's about attachment.
Attachment.
Yeah. Ghosts, in this cosmology, are essentially victims of their own psychological fixations.
Does that make sense?
Whether it's an attachment to physical life, some unresolved grievance, or just an absolute obsession with solving an unsolvable mystery, it's that inability to let go that physically anchors their spirit to the marginal space.
So they are literally weighing themselves down. That reframes the whole concept of exorcism for me.
Right, because the text brings up yin-yang masters, these rural ritual specialists who manage the boundary between the living and the dead.
And their job isn't to violently banish a demon with holy water or something.
Far from it. Their function is actually closer to supernatural grief counseling.
Supernatural grief counseling. I love that.
Yeah. They perform rites to comfort, persuade, and gently encourage the trapped soul to just stop dwelling on earthly gains and losses.
Okay, so ghosts are just human souls with severe attachment issues who basically need some therapy to cross over.
Yeah.
That's almost sweet in a weird way.
It is. But the text makes a massive, rigid distinction between ghosts and the things lurking in the dark that were never human to begin with.
Yeah, that's where things get a bit scary.
This is where the cosmology turns into a full-blown taxonomy. It's a meticulous, almost bureaucratic categorization of non-human entities.
We move from the psychology of dead humans to, like, the ecology of the supernatural.
Exactly.
It's like a supernatural field guide. If you're out entity watching, you need to know exactly what you're looking at to know whether to offer it a cup of tea or run for your life.
Right. So let's look at spirits. These aren't dead people. They are rocks, plants, or animals that have evolved over millions of years.
And the mechanism for that evolution is just fascinating. Think of a quartz crystal sitting inside a mountain.
Okay.
In this universe, it isn't just geological deadweight. Over 10 million years, it is passively soaking up the energetic radiation of the sun and the moon.
Eon after eon, that accumulated energy just reaches a critical mass, basically creating consciousness.
Yeah, that dense spiritual energy allows it to eventually transform.
It's so sci-fi.
It really is. But then you have demons.
Right. Not as peaceful.
No. The text defines them as celestial flora and fauna plants and animals from the heavenly realms who have immense spiritual power but absolutely zero discipline.
So they break heavenly laws and slip down to the human world just to stir up trouble.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
But you have to contrast that with fiends. Fiends are actually a specific class of angels.
Wait, if they're angels, why are they grouped with the scary stuff?
Because of jurisdictional immunity, they are administrators or enforcers from the celestial realm. Humans have absolutely no power to subdue a fiend.
Oh, wow.
If a celestial enforcer goes rogue or acts in a way we perceive as malicious, we can't touch them. They just outrank us on the cosmic ladder.
That is terrifying. Just total cosmic immunity.
Yeah. Then you've got monsters, which are defined purely by their perverse conduct and hideous forms that instinctually make you shudder. Just pure visceral horror. And finally, you have sinful creatures, which the author doesn't even bother giving a cool origin story to.
No, they are literally just categorized as living garbage.
Living garbage. It's so blunt. And we can't forget the 4 malevolent spirits the author specifically names, right? The Qi, Mei, Weng, Ling.
Right.
What exactly are those? The text just drops that phrase like, we should all know what it means.
Well, they come from ancient Chinese folklore. They represent the primal elemental demons of mountains, forests, and streams.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, they are the embodiment of untamed, chaotic nature that continually threatens human civilization.
Got it. So with all these threats out there, the author prescribes a highly specific attitude for dealing with each category.
Right, it's very methodical.
You respect fiends, but keep your distance. Because, again, diplomatic immunity. You avoid demons entirely.
You guard against spirits and try to peacefully transform them if you can.
And you meet monsters with cold defiance. You suppress the ancient mountain demons. And you just sweep sinful creatures away like the trash they are.
Notice the underlying philosophy there, though. This isn't a call to wage some holy war against the darkness.
It's not about eradication.
No, it's an exercise in boundary management. The author directly addresses these entities at one point, saying, your existence has its reason. You have your own space and your own way of living, but please do not interfere too greatly with the lives of humanity.
It's surprisingly diplomatic. It's like telling a bear in a national park, look, I respect your right to be a bear, and I know you serve a purpose in this ecosystem, but you really need to stay out of the campgrounds.
Exactly. It acknowledges that chaos and darker entities have a structural right to exist in the universe. You don't destroy them, you just maintain the borders.
But what happens when a bear wanders into the campground anyway?
That's the big question.
What is the actual mechanism when these entities ignore the diplomacy and attach themselves to a person?
And that brings us to possession.
Right. And the author explains this not as some random curse or bad luck, but as a rigid law of spiritual attraction.
The core mechanism here is basically an energetic algorithm based on, attracts like.
Okay, so how does that work?
Well, with the exception of the greatest creator, all forms of life in this universe can possess one another. But it requires a frequency match.
Like a cosmic matchmaking service. So higher-level beings attached to higher-level humans.
Yes. The text points out that angels, or bodhisattvas, which are enlightened beings in Buddhism, possess people of excellent cultivation and refinement.
That makes sense. Well, demons and fiends are drawn to humans who are ambitious, restless, and deeply discontent with their lives.
Right. That restless ambition acts as a beacon.
What about ghosts?
Ghosts attach to people whose energetic signatures are familiar to them, usually family or close friends.
That's why it's a grieving process.
Exactly. And the living garbage, the sinful creatures, they latch on to the ignorant and the intellectually stagnant.
The author actually reinterprets major cultural events through this exact lens, which I've found fascinating.
Oh, like the New Age movement stuff.
Yeah. For instance, Western New Age channelers, like the entity Seth, or the writings and conversations with God, the author claims those were genuine possessions.
But by high-level angels transmitting philosophy, right?
Exactly. But on the flip side, when you hear about a violent possession in a rural village where 5 strong men can't hold someone down,
Or when people play the summoning of the dish spirit, which is the Taiwanese equivalent of a Ouija board.
yeah, the author categorizes that as the work of demons or monsters slipping through simply because the participants opened a low-frequency door.
It all comes down to the environment of your own consciousness. The author uses this brilliant metaphor. The cleaner a place, the cleaner it becomes. The more disordered and dirty a place, the more disordered and dirty it becomes.
Oh, and the insect comparison. Where fragrance fills the air, butterflies and bees come. Where there's the smell of fat and filth, cockroaches and flies come.
That is so vivid.
It really is. If possession is basically just an algorithm matching your internal vibe with a roaming spirit, you are entirely in control of what you're inviting in.
The human mind is treated as a vessel. If a realm of thought isn't occupied by a strong, grounded framework, it just becomes a vacuum.
And in this cosmology,
Mm.
a vacuum will inevitably be filled by whatever darker things are floating by, waiting for an opportunity.
Which perfectly sets up the author's most surprising solution to supernatural problems.
Because if the mind is a vessel that needs to be filled, the ultimate defense against ghosts and demons isn't magic. It's science and psychology.
You'd expect a text that painstakingly details mountain demons and living garbage to advocate for, like, intense spiritual warfare.
Right, but the author pivots in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah, the text explicitly warns against even telling bluff stories.
Which is so funny. The author recounts being a kid in a village listening to adults tell terrifying stories about ghosts hiding in the outhouse at night.
And the argument is that the more you know about these things, the more you fear them. And that fear acts as a literal spiritual force that binds you.
By simply hearing a scary story and believing it, you are tuning your internal algorithm to attract the very thing you are afraid of.
It's the ultimate power of suggestion manifesting reality. That's why the author argues that empty religious rituals offer zero protection.
Burning incense doesn't change your internal algorithm.
Exactly. The text points to an Indian merchant who devotedly worshipped statues in his shop every day, but constantly dodged paying his debts.
Or a woman living abroad who bowed to a consecrated shrine daily, yet her personal life was just a chaotic disaster.
Right. All the incense in the world can't fix a messy algorithm.
And to prove that collective attention dictates supernatural reality, the author points to a specific historical example, the Mao Zedong era in China.
Now, and just to be clear to you listening, we are strictly reporting the author's historical interpretation here, not taking any political stance ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. But the text claims that during that specific period, possession phenomena essentially vanished.
And the mechanism for why it vanished is fascinating.
Yeah, it wasn't because the spirits were somehow scared of the government.
No, it was because the all-encompassing state-sponsored materialist propaganda completely filled the collective consciousness of the public.
The propaganda literally took up all the space in the room.
There was no energetic vacuum left for the spirits to occupy.
Right. The collective human focus on strict materialism quite literally starved the supernatural entities of the attention they needed to anchor themselves in our reality.
And because of this, the author reaches a stunning conclusion. The ultimate cure for what they call hysteria or demonic possession isn't an exorcism.
The cure is believing in the greatest creator, following the path of scientific development. And I absolutely love this part. Seeing a psychologist and maybe taking some calming medication.
It completely challenges our cultural assumptions about faith and reason.
It really does. In this framework, they aren't enemies at all. What people label as possession is diagnosed here as just a symptom of disordered thinking, extreme suspicion, and a lack of emotional regulation.
The text literally says, as long as one is calm and mentally stable, a person will generally not develop hysteria.
So true reverence for the universe doesn't mean being superstitious. It means maintaining a clean, rational, ordered mind.
Mental stability and scientific literacy are the ultimate spiritual shields.
If humanity walks the path of science and rationality, the text declares, ghosts and monsters will have no market and they will naturally fade away.
Ghosts and monsters will have no market. That phrase is incredible.
It treats the supernatural like an economy based entirely on human attention. If we stop buying what they're selling, they just go out of business.
It's a deeply empowering philosophy hidden inside a highly esoteric mythological cosmology.
It really is. I mean, we started this journey by restructuring all world religions under one CEO to stop the exploitation of ordinary people.
We explored how ghosts aren't monsters, but just obsessive, pitiable souls trapped by their own inability to let go.
We unpacked an entire taxonomy of ancient spirits, untouchable fiends, and living garbage.
And we arrived at the profound realization that the law of spiritual attraction means our own psychological health and our commitment to science are our absolute best defenses against the dark.
Stripping away the literal demons and floating coffins, this text holds up a vital mirror to our modern lives.
It really forces us to examine our own mental hygiene. How might our own anxieties, our obsessions, and our mental clutter be acting as an open invitation for negativity?
Whether you view it metaphorically or literally, we have to ask what kind of energy we are attracting when we leave our mental doors wide open. Imagine your mind as a room.
What are you choosing to fill it with?
Are you planting a garden that attracts butterflies, or are you leaving out garbage that attracts flies? It all loops back to that initial impulse we talked about at the start, the very human need to organize the closet, to put things in boxes to keep the chaos at bay.
The author of this text just applied that exact same need to the architecture of the human soul.
But I want to leave you listening with one final thought to mull over, building on the author's theory of the attention economy. The text argues that during eras of strong, all-encompassing propaganda, supernatural phenomena vanished because the collective human mind was completely filled with other concepts. The ghosts were literally starved of attention.
Which is a wild concept to apply today.
Right. Because if our collective focus has the power to banish entities from reality simply by ignoring them. Look at the world around you today. Look at the screens, the endless news feeds, the algorithms relentlessly dictating our focus. What else are we inadvertently manifesting into reality or destroying forever right now, simply by what our society chooses to pay attention to?